Ms. Bishop, you're next.
Good morning again.
Morning.
In a while. Let's see. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I'm not affiliated with the protesters at Gilman Springs, nor am I affiliated with the Church of Scientology. Depending on which version you choose to believe, Ordinance 884 was passed, one, because a mythical Mormon bishop was being protested. Number two, because of the anonymous propaganda that was distributed by the Church of Scientology. And number three, at the request of the Church of Scientology. Last week, Mr. Stone, I wasn't here, but I watched the meeting online. You made a comment to Mr. John Hansen, I believe was his name, at 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 15 seconds. And you said, and I quote, "That's a very important exclamation that you just made because you don't have all the facts. You need to have all the facts before you say that we're being inequitable." And that's a very true comment. But I find your comments a bit laughable because you have refused to present all of the information regarding 884 to the board and to the public. One of those facts is that the anonymous propaganda was in fact put together by the Church of Scientology itself. Now, I don't know, because I wasn't in your meetings, but I don't know if you disclosed that fact to the rest of the board members. If you did, then I find it even more disturbing that the board went ahead and just took it as fact, because it's quite biased. And I know that you didn't disclose that to the public. Another fact is that no targeted picketing has ever taken place in front of the Church of Scientology. Matter of fact, that's the reason why the dining hall was so important, because they wanted to have that dining hall designated as a residence because it's closest to the gates. The fact is that the residences or the dwellings are placed far, far behind the gates, and no targeted picketing has ever taken place. So my question is to Ms. Waltz, if you're allowed to answer, why was a targeted picketing ordinance passed when no targeted picketing ever took place? And please don't tell me that the Church of Scientology had nothing to do with it because they were here.
Chairman, if I might address. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think during the public hearings we mentioned that while the Scientology requests may have been the impetus to start looking at the ordinance, they weren't the reason why the ordinance was passed. The ordinance, it was felt that the Sheriff's Department, it could be a viable tool for the Sheriff's Department. We agreed during the public hearings that the residence, that the dining hall was not a residence, and that under the targeted picketing ordinance, there wasn't a residence located at the entrance of the Scientology. That's why I don't understand, and I still don't understand, the relevancy of the anonymous booklet, because in the end, the ordinance was not passed as a result of the Scientology protests.
But the anonymous packet was presented to the board. There was a 9 or 10 minute presentation by the chairman, Jeff Stone, and he stated December the 9th. This is the reason that the ordinance was brought forward.
Your time's up,
That's an
Ms. Bishop.
excuse.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Gary Grant, followed by Judy Waltz.
Just another question on that point. If County Council could get some information for us. Since the ordinance was passed, I've read in the newspapers that there were animal rights activists who were enjoined from protesting in front of researchers or professors' residents at UCLA that may have been using animals in their research. They went to court, evidently, I don't know whether the university or the researchers themselves, and that's what I want County Council to find out, and got injunctions to prohibit site-specific, resident-specific picketing in front of homes. And that was an option that was never presented to us that may be a compromise here, that rather than a blanket ordinance, but that might better suit future situations, if there are indeed, specific hazards, specific harassments that cannot be contained by sheriffs and so forth, whether an injunctive relief here on a specific case or cases that are going on at the same time would be an alternate tool or even preferable tool to an ordinance. And that was never discussed during the entire time we were considering this ordinance, but I see it being employed nearby in Los Angeles, and that's the reason I'm asking. So, Council, can you get us some information on that?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Grant, your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Julia Waltz. That's the last speaker. If somebody else wishes to address the board, you need to get your slip in now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not affiliated with the special interest group or the protesters, but I would just like to say something. This morning, I spoke with the undersheriff, Miss Valerie Hill, and when you introduced the ordinance on 22409, you invited the undersheriff to give their opinion on the ordinance. County Council, okay. And the following quotes are by the undersheriff, Miss Valerie Hill, and Supervisor Stone and Bob Buster. 1 hour and 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Open quote, Undersheriff Valerie Hill. Our comments are simple. We thank you for the opportunity we had to vent through with County Council. Buster to Undersheriff Hill. I'm always interested in specific cases given rise to the need for new laws. What specific cases can you show us produced that called for this? Undersheriff Hill, I can't give you any specific cases. Supervisor Stone, I might add that you weren't the author of the ordinance. You didn't bring it forward. Undersheriff Hill, right. Stone, it was brought forward because of incidents that were well documented on the internet. Residential harassment and violence that happened in neighborhood counties such as LA County. Rather than wait for an event to happen here and wait for someone to be hurt or killed, why not take the necessary precautions to hopefully keep this type of mobility and mentality from happening? And then at 2 hours and 3 minutes and 40 seconds, Stone said, I feel good that I brought this ordinance forward. My point is that County Council, this ordinance was vented through, brought forward, and passed because of a special interest group. Show me the cases. I mean, did anybody do any research on any specific cases that have happened in this county? You just brought an ordinance forward for no reason. Not because you can't speculate and say you can't project that something's going to happen. And besides that, there's already penal codes and laws on the books. I think this ordinance needs to be brought back and repealed. And another thing, Supervisor Stone, congratulations on your campaign for state senate. But really, in these economical times, the public doesn't need to keep hearing about your sister and how she's a highly paid volunteer. People are suffering enough. It's nice to toot your own horn, but don't do it at the taxpayer's expense. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Pardon me?
We're adjourned to closed session.